So let's talk about the mess at the school board first, Otis. I know you've been doing some reporting on this. We're at the stage in one of these bigger stories where we hear a lot of things anecdotally, things we can't necessarily report yet, but we can tell it is well, I can't say it on TV, but I'll say half it. It is a cluster
It is.
at this point. What are you hearing about what's going on?
It is. I mean, you said mess. You can also use the word chaos, topsy-turvy, any word you want to use that adequately describes what's going on over there. I have talked to a lot of people involved in this, both people who are inside, people who are on the board, and they all say pretty much one thing, that Dr. Feagins has a terrible communications problem. She does not confer with the people who should be the trusted people there at the school board. And instead of listening to start off, she only started this job on April 1st. And instead of trying to get the lay of the land, she just came in with guns blazing. And now you have really good people that she has either pushed aside, gotten rid of. I mean, the Chief of Human Resources, Quentin Robinson, is out the door. The Chief Legal Officer, Odell Horton Jr., has been pushed aside. Catherine Stout, who was an outstanding communications person, is gone. And the board, as you said, they put the brakes on this the other day with an 8-1 vote because they have not been talked to about this. So this is ultimate chaos. And unless she changes her tone, I don't know what's going to happen here.
You're talking about her plan to basically move 1,100 jobs to the classroom. Some of those are already vacant, but it would involve a big salary decrease for about 600 workers who are at central office. And I think you're right. The general consensus has been we need to make changes at the central office. She said in her job interview that it was bloated. It's interesting on social media, though. Right now, she's got a lot of support. People love that she's shaking it up and that she's causing this firestorm. They think it's fantastic and long overdue. Mark?
I totally agree with you. I've been monitoring that myself, and I think she's got a lot of support from the lay community. You know, again, Otis, you talked about the superintendent starting on April the 1st. We're talking about 76 days ago. I am not inclined to throw the new superintendent underneath the bus. She entered a school system that has been failing for decades. We've got children that are not proficient in math or English, reading and writing. There's only 17 kids out of 100 that can do math in Shelby County schools.
To their grade level.
To their grade level. And again, she has surrounded herself with a really group of who's who on her steering committee. I think you've got to give her and her team a little bit of time. Also, I think there's a sense of urgency with Shelby County schools, and if a CEO is going to make drastic changes, quite frankly, now is the time to do that. I believe in the first 100 days of her administration.
Communication issue, though, is that a fair point? I mean, the school board was a little miffed that they weren't more brought into the loop on this. I have to say, as someone who knows a thing or two about communications, usually when you're going to do a big thing like this, you have a news conference and you explain to the public, here's the budget situation, here's why we're doing what we're doing, instead of it just leaking out piece by piece like it has been.
And to some degree, I fault the school board for that. You go out and you bring a leader into a city and you give them a mandate. She did not make up these things. Let's stop and let's go through it. She did not figure out within 75 or 76 days which schools needed to be closed. She did not figure out in 75 days on her own that it was bloated at the top. Somebody gave her these recommendations and inside information. This came. Now, I think we have a classic argument or conversation between what is the mission and what is the method by which we accomplish it. In mission, everybody's giving her an A+. In method, she's failing poorly. She's getting a D-. And so what she's doing is going about it in such a way that she has not been sensitive to the culture, to the impact that it's going to have on everyday working people, middle-class people who have given their lives, their careers to build up the school system, who are part of a community. And so it has to be some form of tenderness, if I can say that, in the way you handle that. You set up an office of transformation, an office of transition that you help people to look at the jobs that are out there, explain to them what's going on, talk to people, inform them, train them, and get them ready for the transition.
I don't disagree with some of what you two said, but let's look at some other issues here. There are some labor issues that are also involved in this when we're talking about getting rid of people. They have to have some kind of notice.
There's a warn notice.
Absolutely, and a lot of them were not given that. And Mark, I mean, obviously, when you were on the county commission, if somebody on the that you were in charge of ran off doing things and did not communicate with the county commissioners, that would be a problem. And I think you always say that publicly.
You're correct.
Well, that was a problem here. And that's why, Althea Green, the chair of the school board, she's in a tough position here because, yes, she did sort of, lead the decision to hire Dr. Feagins.
They voted unanimously in favor.
Yeah,
Right.
and they wanted to do that to send a message to the community. But now she is in this position where Dr. Feagins is not communicating with the board, and she was the one that put forth that resolution the other day, and because she felt she had to do so because of the lack of communication and the chaos that's being brought there. Right.
Isn't it a little rich, though, for 8 school board members to put the brakes on the program when they've hired the superintendent to shake things up?
Right.
And now, whoa, wait a second.
Right.
We didn't know you were going to really do it.
Right.
It's kind of how it feels like to me.
Right. The onboarding process, I think, should still be going on. You don't just bring a person in and say, hey, here's a new Boeing 757 or whatever it is, and say, you're the pilot. You give them some training. You give them some time to really feel this thing out. And I think what has happened is we brought her in and just cut her loose and said, go. And these are the results that we're getting back.
Her approach may be rough, and I think everyone's made really good points. There needs to be some more sensitivity and fairness, but I think there's such a frustration level with the lack of education. We also got woefully behind during COVID, and we saw a great diminishing of education across this country, but especially here in Memphis, where our kids were already so far behind. So some of this is post-COVID regardless, but again, I think there's so many things in Memphis that we're struggling with. People don't have a lot of patience these days, and I think we've got to be a little bit more patient with the superintendent and give her some more time to tackle some things that we've been dealing with for decades.
And by no means are any of us suggesting not having patience, but we are saying definitely have some sensitivity and take a new method approach to dealing with these drastic measures that we're implementing.
And they're just, and again, this is anecdotally, so I'm not going to get into specifics, but I've heard from enough people to see that there are some real issues in just her communication skills and her handling of personnel. The word narcissist has been used several times. And, is that just because we've got somebody who's got a strong personality and is a strong leader? Could be. But this is just something that I just wonder how much patience this school board is going to have.
Well, and I think they are going to have some, at least in the short run, because they're not going to do anything drastic with 5 of those seats up for election in August. So they're going to tip lightly around that.
Plus, do we really want to go through another firing surge, 2-year surge? I mean,
we really don't.
But when do you draw the line and put the hammer down, and when do you embrace a new direction when things have been going poorly for so long? And when that person comes to the table and offers a plan, and you cut the plan before it gets started, you're really saying we're married to the old system and the old results. So I think at some point we must be ready for a major transition to take place to get new results with the school system. It's going to take that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's also keep in mind that Dr. Feagins has not been a superintendent before. Her job in Detroit was not at the top level. And there's also some questions going on, especially among the school board members, about how good of a job the search firm did in vetting her, because the reports coming out of Detroit even are not all that
I push back slightly on that, because sometimes you have to have people who have never been in certain positions to get new ideas. I had never been a pastor before when I was elected to pastor the church that I serve, and we've had pretty good results in 25 years. But it took a different way of thinking, a different way of applying what we have known historically and what we do know to be good, but you have to go about it in a different methodology. I think we got to give her a chance. We just have to give her a chance. And then we do have to have somebody to walk alongside her to say, no, not that far. but maybe right here, right there.
But the people who are trying to do that, though, I'm hearing they're the ones that are getting pushed aside.
I'm hearing that some of those people were the ones who were whispering these changes in our ears.
Yeah, okay.
Well, you know, a superintendent can also only be as good as their board. And again, we get what we elect, and there can be some improvement on that school board as well.
I think those
leadership
those
starts
five
at the
incumbents
top.
are in trouble.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I really do, because I
Yes,
think
yeah.
the public's appetite for change is very strong right
And
now.
remember, 2 of them were appointed, not elected.
So that's back,
they-
back to the original point, though. Okay, so now you say we don't like the results we're getting. We're going to pump the brakes, and we may even say, let's do this or do that. Do we trust that same group
Right.
to go back and start this process? No, I mean, come on, let's be for real.
All right, let's go from the MSCS mess to the MATA mess. We'll talk about MATA right after this.